All right, we are back for Eddard XIII. Now, in case you forgot, we are in the middle of the big Eddard climax in A Game of Thrones. Eddard has a series of 4 chapters in a row, with other. I mean, there's obviously three other people between them, but besides Dany, which is a huge chapter in the middle, the others are kind of filler. So we go Eddard, Sansa, and that Sansa chapter is not the best chapter. It's mostly just a repeat of what happened in the previous Eddard chapter. So we go Eddard, Sansa, Eddard, Dany, where Viserys dies, big deal. Then we go Eddard, Jon, Eddard. But we are in this huge chunk of what's happening to Eddard that's, obviously just been kind of broken up by George. But this is the prime action of leading up to the coup. And so this chapter, Eddard XIII, is famously where Robert dies. We have, I think it's remembered for 2 things, like the farewell speech and the farewell conversation between Ned and Robert, and a repairing of Robert's character as much as one could. And the offers that are made to Ned and how Ned is, I would say a lot of fans think he's pretty dumb in this chapter. Some people defend Ned, and I am not one of those people. I think Ned is absolutely stupid and idiotic in this chapter. We'll get into it, but I understand why he does what he does, but he could have done it in a better way. To get his goals. I think this is really peak insanity from Ned, where you're just like, oh gosh. I mean, there's one thing to offer mercy to Cersei. Like, a lot of people think, whoa, I can't believe he did that. This chapter, though, really pushes how Eddard screws up. But let's get into it. He walked through the crypts beneath Winterfell as he walked 1,000 times before. The kings of winter watched him pass with eyes of ice, and the direwolves at their feet turned their great stone heads and snarled. Last of all, he came to the tomb where his father slept, with Brandon and Lyanna beside him. Promise me, Ned, Lyanna's statue whispered. She wore a garland of pale blue roses, and her eyes wept of blood. So here we kind of get that there is a trauma that has been haunting Ned. And this has been building up since the Tower of Joy chapter, which I believe is chapter 10. And this is, and there's been bits all the way from the beginning, him remembering promise me when Sansa says promise me and things like this. But, and now we find out that he's done it. He's had this dream 1,000 times before. He's been suffering from a sort of a PTSD kind of situation for a long time. He's been hiding it in the early chapters, but now it's really coming out. And this we know that this PTSD is related to children in some way. His desire to want to protect Joffrey is very important here. He thinks that Joffrey is a child who's going to be killed. He's thinking about Daenerys and things like that. His desire to protect the children is paramount here in his decisions. And so, yes, we can say, okay, Ned is being really stupid. I would have done this. I would have done that. You have to first think, okay, how is he going to protect Joffrey, Myrcella, and Tommen? How is he going to do it? How is he going to prevent these children from being killed? And when looking at it that way, a lot of Ned's decisions make sense, but I still think he's really dumb. So there's something here. Now, interesting, Brandon is mentioned. So we never know all of the stories of Lyanna and Rhaegar and the Tower of Joy. They don't really include Brandon very much. We get a little more of Brandon brought in A Dance with Dragons, but here he's sort of saying that Brandon is part of the story. And yes, Brandon's part of the story, and then he goes to King's Landing and gets killed. But you almost feel like he should be part of the story more. I don't know if George really had the full idea of what happened at the Tower of Joy and everything in mind. I certainly don't think he had everything in mind with Starfall and stuff like that. So anyway, continuing on. Eddard Stark jerked upright, his heart racing. The blankets tangled around him. The room was black as pitch, and someone was hammering on the door. Lord Eddard! A voice called loudly, calling back to the Tower of Joy. Lord Eddard, Lord Eddard. This is the same as it's yelled Lord Eddard when he wakes up from the Tower of Joy, a dream. It's funny that like Lyanna would be yelling Lord Eddard, but that's in the dream, or at least it's crossed over in some way. Or he feels guilty about Lord or whatever, because it's Brandon's title. A moment, groggy and naked, he stumbled his way across the darkened chamber. When he opened the door, he found Tamard with an upraised fist and Cain with a taper in hand. I think we've heard of Cain before. Cain later is killed by the Hound during the coup. Tamard is Fat Tom, who's easily fooled. If we remember that joke, Fat Tom's easily fooled. The man's face might have been carved of stone, so little did it show. My Lord Hand, he intoned. I guess going back to the stone faces here. His Grace the King commands your presence at once. So Robert has returned from his hunt. It was long past. I shall need a few moments to dress. Ned left the man waiting without. Cain helped him with his clothes, white linen tunic and gray cloak, trousers cut open with his plaster and sheathed legs, his badge of office, and last of all, a belt of heavy silver links. He sheathed the Valyrian dagger at his waist. Really, they should have run ahead with news of the king. The Red Keep was dark and still as Cain and Tamard escorted him across the inner bailey. The moon hung low over the walls, ripening towards full. On the ramparts, a guardsman in a gold cloak walked his rounds. The royal apartments were in Maegor's Holdfast, a massive square fortress that nestled in the heart of the Red Keep, behind walls 12 feet thick and a dry moat lined with iron spikes, a castle within a castle. Sir Boris Blount guarded the far end of the bridge, white steel armor ghostly in the moonlight. Within, Ned passed two other knights of the King's Guard. Sir Preston Greenfield stood at the bottom of the steps, and Sir Barristan Selmy waited at the door of the king's bedchamber. 3 men in white cloaks, he thought, remembering. Again, back to Tower of Joy. Everything is back to Tower of Joy here. And a strange chill went through him. Sir Barristan's face was pale as his armor. Ned only had to look at him to know that something was dreadfully wrong. The royal steward opened the door. Lord Eddard Stark, the head of the king, he announced. Later we get some more geography of the Red Keep, but I always thought it interesting, the bedroom of Robert, because there's a question of where does Cersei sleep? Does Cersei sleep? Does she switch rooms? Things like this. Does she take Robert's room after this? But because later Cersei is sleeping in the bed that Robert died in A Clash of Kings. So you're like, oh, did they sleep in the same bed? Anyway, bring him here, Robert's voice called, strangely thick. Fires blazed in the twin hearths at either end of the bedchamber, filling the room with a sullen red glare. The heat within was suffocating. Robert lay across a canopied bed. At the bedside hovered Grandmaster Pycelle, while Lord Renly paced restlessly before the shuttered windows. Servants moved back and forth, feeding logs to the fire and boiling wine. Cersei Lannister sat on the edge of the bed beside her husband. Her hair was tousled, as if from sleep, but there was nothing sleepy in her eyes. They followed Ned, as Tamard and Cain helped him across the room. He seemed to move very slowly, as if he were still dreaming. Now, Lord Renly also screws up here. He should have probably gone ahead, and because it's not like Robert is on a horse. He's being taken in a slower wagon. Renly could have easily gone ahead and gotten to Ned earlier with news. Perhaps a day earlier, 2 days earlier, considering they're all the way in the Kingswood. The king still wore his boots. Ned could see dried mud and blades of grass clinging to the leather, where Robert's feet stuck out beneath the blanket that covered him. A green doublet lay on the floor, slashed open and discarded, the cloth crusted with red-brown stains. The room smelled of smoke and blood and death. A lot of care. There's a beautifully written chapter, a lot of care that you can tell that George put into this one. Ned, the king whispered when he saw him. His face was pale as milk. Come closer. His men brought him close. Ned steadied himself with a hand on the bedpost. He had only to look at Robert to know how bad it was. What? He began, his throat clenched. A boar, Lord Renly said, still in his hunting greens, his cloak spattered with blood. A devil, the king husked. My own fault. Too much wine. Damn me to hell. Missed the thrust. And so here we have the first clue. This is the parallel scene because in Daenerys' chapter, Viserys dies, everything changes. And why does Viserys die? Well, Viserys dies because he's drunk. Later we find out that the drunkenness was Cersei's doing. A little silly, the whole thing. I mean, he is... The whole thing is very silly because it's just like he's hunting for days, weeks in the Kingswood, many days, many weeks. Like he's not going to be wasted the whole time on strong wine. Is he going to finish all the strong wine? How does he know that? How do they know to give him the strong wine? How do they know that even with the strong wine, he would miss his thrust? I mean, as a comparison, it's sort of like saying, can you murder, like say you get somebody drunk and then send them home in their car. Yeah, they might die drunk driving, but most likely they're going to get home fine. Like most of the time, even when drunk driving, you don't get into an accident, right? You can't guarantee a death, a murder here, which makes Cersei's plan really silly and incredibly lucky. Now, in a fiction sense, the audience tends to reject coincidences that help the protagonist, but they accept coincidences that hurt the protagonist. Like, if everything is lucky and then the protagonist gets out of it, it feels cheap. But if everything is lucky and that hurts the protagonist, then we kind of accept that as part of the story. It's another thing that the protagonist has to get over. So here, this is just outrageous luck for Cersei that Robert died here. But again, this gets into the conspiracy. If Cersei conspired to kill Robert with drunkenness, someone conspired to kill Viserys with drunkenness. And where are the rest of you? Where were the rest of you? Ned demanded of Lord Renly. Where was Sir Barristan and the King's Guard? Renly's mouth twitched. My brother commanded us to stand aside and let him take the boar alone. Lord Eddard lifted the blanket. They had done what they could to close him up, but it was nowhere near enough. The boar must have been a fearsome thing. It had ripped the king from groin to nipple with its tusks. So Robert has been clearly mauled in a sexualized sense. He's been mauled in the groin, ripped up to the nipple. And this is supposed to be a somewhat ironic death, just as Viserys' death is an ironic death. I need to be crowned. Robert, who sort of prides himself on his manliness, is gored in the crotch at the end of his life. So his manliness is taken out in an ironic sense. Yeah. The wine-soaked bandages that Grand Maester Pycelle had applied were already black with blood, and the smell of the wound was hideous. So it's already gone gangrenous. So we can tell some days have gone by here. Ned's stomach turned. He let the blanket fall. Stinks, Robert said. The stink of death. Don't think I can't smell it. Bastard did me good, eh? But I paid him back in kind. Ned, the king's smile was as terrible as his wound, his teeth red. Drove a knife right through his eye. Ask them if I didn't. Ask them. So here we get even though Bloodraven has not been created as a character, we have a fun little idea of a one-eyed bastard here, which perhaps it's coincidental, perhaps George built on this, but the idea of that later on there's discussion of was the boar skin changed. This comes in A Feast for Crows, where Cersei, when she's accused of murder and stuff such as, is like, what is this? Is hilarious. What am I, a skin changer? I skin changed the boar. And so in a retroactive sense, you know, we get this idea of was Bloodraven or anyone else skin changing the boar. It's definitely something that was thought about. Maybe not at the time, but certainly later. But by George. But certainly interesting when we get bastard, hand, one eye, that we get these fun little parallel, at least later on, to Bloodraven, even though Bloodraven was not yet established as a character. Truly, Lord Renly murmured, we brought the carcass back with us at my brother's command. For the feast, Robert whispered. Now, of course, Cersei does eat this boar and loves it. And now leave us, the lot of you. I need to speak with Ned. Robert, my sweet, Cersei began. I said leave, Robert insisted with a hint of his old fierceness. What part of that don't you understand, woman? Cersei gathered up her skirts and her dignity and led her way to the door. Lord Renly and the others followed. Grandmaster Pycelle lingered, his face shaking as he offered the king a cup of thick white liquid. The milk of the poppy, your grace, he said. Drink for your pain. Robert knocked the cup away with the back of his hand. Away with you. I'll sleep soon enough, old fool. Get out. Grandmaster Pycelle gave Ned so Robert knows he's going to die, of course. Robert Pycelle gave Ned a stricken look as he shuffled from the room. Damn you, Robert, Ned said when they were alone. His leg was throbbing so badly he was almost left blind with pain. Or perhaps it was the grief that fogged his eyes. He lowered himself to the bed beside his friend. Why do you always have to be so headstrong? Ah, fuck you, Ned, the king said hoarsely. I killed the bastard, didn't I? A lock of matted black hair fell across his eyes as he glared up at Ned. Ought to do the same for you. Can't leave a man to hunt in peace. Sir Robar found me, Gregor's head, an ugly thought. Never told the hound. Let Cersei surprise me. So this is an interesting thing, is that Sir Robar, is that Robar Royce? Or yes, it's Robar Royce. So Robar Royce is sent to inform Robert of everything that happened in the throne room. And Robert, this is important here, Robert still continues his hunting. And with all the variable, the realm has fallen apart, and Robert continues his hunting, which is pretty, I have to say, a pretty shitty thing. Like, it's one thing to go off hunting, fine. But he didn't know that Scherer and Mummer's Ford and Wendish Town was going to happen. You know, he didn't know. But once Sir Robar gives him this information, he should have immediately stopped hunting and gone home. And that would have saved his life. It would have saved his life had he gone back. But he didn't. He still wanted to hide from everything. The fatal mistake for Robert. Real and pretty. I understand he's just derelict in his duties here. But this is, it's funny that of all the things in there, he thinks that Never Told the Hound was like the most important aspect of it. Like, one of the most irrelevant parts. I understand that people later are like, oh man, you sure pissed off the Hound, and because you were going to kill Gregor and not him, and that's the one thing that the king thinks about. it's like he's not thinking about Tywin and and like he's not thinking about Tywin and the kidnappings and things like and Cat kidnapping Tyrion, all these other much more important things. He thinks about the Hound and Cersei surprising the Hound with the news. Who cares? Like that is so irrelevant. Oh my lord. Oh, Robert. Just his priorities are all backward. Anyway, his laugh turned into a grunt of spasm, a grunt as a spasm of pain hit him. I mean, it might be that George was seeding something. He's just like, oh man, maybe the Hound's really going to be pissed off about this. Maybe I'm going to do something about it. And then he never did, and he wanted to seed more of it. But anyway, gods have mercy, he muttered, swallowing his agony. The girl Daenerys, only a child. You were right. That's why. The girl. The gods sent me the boar, sent to punish me. So here, Robert's dying. I think he's now lamenting his life, and a lot of people before death all of a sudden want to become godly and good. So it's just one of these things that in his death, only after getting mauled, does he finally think about it. I think on earlier reads, I really thought that Robert, sitting around in the woods with time to think, went over Ned's decisions and came to the right decision, or Ned's protest and came to the right decision. But it's really Robert being faced with death, and he's going to die anyway. So now what's the point? Like Daenerys isn't going to kill him anymore, and he's consumed with revenge and stuff like this. And only on his deathbed, only when faced with death and realizing like his life and lamenting his life and thinking on it, does he realize that this was the wrong thing to do. But, you know, the king coughed, bringing up blood. Wrong. It was wrong. I, only a girl, Varys, Littlefinger, even my brother, worthless. No one to tell me but you, Ned. Only you. He lifted his hand, the gesture pained and feeble. Paper and ink, there on the table. Write what I tell you. Oh, I almost forgot. One of the most important things about Robert getting gored in the freaking crotch is that he's bleeding from the freaking crotch. So he's in a bed of blood like Lyanna after getting plowed. Okay? This is Lyanna, right? After getting plowed, she's now birthing in a bed of blood. You know, this is the same in the same area. So this is definitely a parallel situation that he's been gored. He's been gored there to also parallel Lyanna's childbirth. Ned smoothed the piece of paper across his knee and took up the quill. At your command, your grace. This is the will and word of Robert of House Baratheon, the first of his name, king of the Andals and all the rest. Put in the damn titles, you know how it goes. I do hereby command... He complains about it long enough that he could have just said the titles. I do hereby command Eddard of House Stark, Lord of Winterfell and Hand of the King, to serve as Lord Regent and Protector of the Realm upon my death. To rule in my stead until my son Joffrey does come of age. Robert, Joffrey is not your son, he wanted to say, but the words would not come. The agony was written too plainly across Robert's face. He could not hurt him anymore. So Ned bent his head and wrote, but where the king had said, my son Joffrey, he scrawled my heir instead. The deceit had made him feel soiled. The lies we tell for love, he thought. May the gods forgive me. What else should you have me say? Reading this the first time and seeing the show, you really think that this like little clever change is going to amount to something. It amounts to nothing. And I kind of feel like if you were to do this today with a contract, certainly contractual intent is important. And you know, say someone changed like the same, like the name of your son to just your son, or the heir, you know, no, it wouldn't have really mattered. It's not like all of a sudden they'd be like, okay, I guess we're gonna give all the money to somebody else. That's what the words say. Like they think about the intent of the person crafting it and what it means. You know, like a judge would come up with that. So I kind of think that even with the heir, it's very difficult to take this will and say it means Stannis just because it says the heir. Now, if Eddard is regent, he can fucking do what he wants. But if Eddard is regent, he can fucking do what he wants. So it's kind of silly. The whole thing is silly, but it amounts to nothing. It amounts to nothing. I mean, his will clearly says that Eddard is going to be the regent, and that is not honored. No one cares. Power is power. The person with the swords is the one that has all the power. So say whatever you need. Protect and defend the gods, old and new. You have the words. Right. I'll sign it. You give it to the council when I'm dead. Robert, Ned said in a voice thick with grief. You must not do this. Don't die on me. The realm needs you. Robert took his hand, fingers squeezed hard. You are such a bad liar, Ned Stark. He said through the pain. The realm knows that what a wretched king I've been. Bad as Ares, God spare me. No, I mean, I think Robert's reign was fine, you know? No, Ned told his dying friend. Not so bad as Ares, your great. Not nearly so bad as Ares. You know, I mean, what else did Robert do that was that bad? I mean, he let Jon Arryn, for the most part, rule, and Jon Arryn did fine. There was nothing particularly bad about Robert's reign. I mean, you know, he might have been a bad person, you could argue, having sex with very young sex workers, trading his wife and beating his wife, trying to have Daenerys killed. All of these are very bad things, but if you're actually talking about ruling as a king, I mean, he was fine. He let Jon Arryn do it. You know, so. Robert managed a weak red smile. At least they will say this last thing. This I did right. You won't fail me. You'll rule now. You'll hate it. Worse than I did, but you'll do well. Are you done with the scribbling? So this last thing is a little ambiguous. Does he mean like saving Daenerys, or does he mean just appointing Ned? Because he appointed Jon Arryn, everyone was fine with Jon Arryn. I don't see why they'd think that Ned was, you know, that much better, but it's fine. Yes, Your Grace. I mean, Robert's dying here. I'm going to give him a lot of leeway. Yes, Your Grace. Ned offered Robert the paper. The king scrawled his signature blindly, leaving a smear of blood across the letter. The seal should be witnessed. Serve the boar at my funeral feast, Robert rasped. Apple in its mouth, skin seared crisp. Eat the bastard. Don't care if you choke on him. Promise me, Ned. I promise. Promise me, Ned, Lyanna's voice echoed. Here it is. The parallel could not be stronger. Robert in a bed of blood in his crotch. Lyanna in a bed of blood, having given birth, blood in her crotch, dying. It is very, very clear parallel. The girl, the king said. Let her live if you... Oh, so the last thing is not saving Daenerys. The last thing is making Ned rule. Because he hasn't actually said to save Daenerys. He said it was wrong. But now he's actually ordering it. The king, the king said, Daenerys, let her live if you can. If it... Not too late. Talk to them. Varys Littlefinger. Don't let them kill her. And help my son, Ned. Make him be better than me, he winced. Gods have mercy. They will, my friend, Ned said. They will. The king closed his mouth and seemed to relax. Killed by a pig, he muttered. Ought to laugh, but it hurts so much. It hurts too much. Ned was not laughing. Now, it's very clear that the intention is like, help my son, Ned. To help Joffrey. And we'll get to this, because Ned does act to help Joffrey, but he never thinks about helping Joffrey, strangely enough. I mean, but so it's interesting. Ned was not laughing. Shall I call him back? Robert gave a weak nod. As you will. Gods, why is it so cold in here? The servants rushed back in and hurried to feed the fires. The queen had gone. That was some small relief, at least. If she had any sense, Cersei would take her children and fly before the break of day, Ned thought. She had lingered too long already. There is the big mistake. He told her to take off, and she didn't. He should have arrested her, picked her up, popped her on a ship, sent her off. That should have been done. His whole reason for not arresting her is because he's having mercy. He doesn't want kids killed. He's doing it for Joffrey, Myrcella, and Tommen. And the fact that he didn't take... It was risky enough to let her live. It was risky enough to not arrest her. It was risky enough. And here, the minute the king... She should have had people watching for the king's return. He should have had, he should have put Cersei on it. Because the whole thing... I don't actually even understand why he would do it, because he knew that the king returning meant the death of the children. He was convinced that if he found out that Cersei was having an affair and the kids were bastards by Jaime, he would have them killed. So by not doing it, he is risking the children. So there's a real conflict in Ned's motivations here. I mean, granted, like, the king comes back by surprise, but still, like, the minute the king came back, he was like, finally, and he goes to see him. It should be, oh crap, I've got to get Cersei and the kids out of the city. The king's back. Oh crap, I got to get the kids out of here. They're going to get killed. So there's a shift in his motivation here, but maybe Ned's not thinking straight. King Robert did not seem to miss her. He bid his brother Renly and Grand Maester Pycelle to stand in witness as he pressed the seal into the hot wax that Ned had dipped upon his letter. Now give me something for the pain and let me die. Hurriedly, Grand Maester Pycelle mixed him with another draught of milk of the poppy. This time the king drank deeply. His black beard was beaded with thick white droplets when he threw the empty cup aside. Will I dream? Ned gave him an answer. You will, my lord. Good, he said, smiling. I will give Lyanna your love, Ned. Take care of my children for me. And again, the intention here, he's saying Joffrey, Myrcella, Tommen. Okay. Now, the king's been around. I mean, maybe you could say that Robert's been a shitty dad, but he hasn't been completely absent. I mean, they're around him. He's grown to love them. Whether or not they're his or not, he's grown to love them. And this is kind of a weird moment for Ned. Ned doesn't understand, like, this idea of that even if adopted, like, Robert would be conflicted probably about killing these children. I don't know if he would. I mean, you've grown up your whole life with them. Like, you've grown to love them, whether they're yours or not. They would probably be a special situation with them, finding out that they're all bastards by Jaime. Maybe Cersei and Jaime would be killed. What to do with those kids? You don't all of a sudden hate your kids. Like, they're his adopted kids, right? The words twisted in Ned's belly like a knife. For a moment, he was at a loss. He could not bring himself to lie. Then he remembered the bastards, little Bara at her mother's breast, Mia in the Vale, Gendry at the forge, and all the others. I shall guard your children as if they were my own, he said slowly. So, Ned has some really twisted logic here, okay? Because ask yourself, like, you have adopted children that you've been around for a dozen years. I mean, Tommen's a little, Tommen and Myrcella a little younger. But you have these adopted children, years and years with them. And you have some unknown bastard children that you've spent no time with. Which do you value more? Now, most people would value their adopted children. They're with them their whole life. Like they've been with them for, a decade. These bastard children, you don't know them. And in Ned's head, though, he's just like, oh, the genetics is most important. Like Robert would value these irrelevant bastards like more than his own adopted children. Like Ned's mind is in a really weird place. I think as readers, certainly on first read, I didn't catch this sort of stuff. I was like, yeah, they're not his, but the thing is you're not around the kids very much. I mean, you're around Joffrey and you hate him, right? But you're not around Myrcella and Tommen, so you kind of don't care about them because they're irrelevant characters. Well, we've met Gendry and we've met Mia, we've met Bara and so in a sense we as readers care about the others more, and I guess Ned cares about them more. But clearly Robert would not care about them. Like he hasn't. He's chosen not to care about them. But yeah, he does. Ned doesn't do anything for him one way or the other. But he is trying to do this whole thing. The whole mercy for Cersei was to protect the children. So even though he's thinking about the bastards and rejecting Joffrey, Myrcella, and Tommen in his mind, saying, I'm not going to protect them, everything he does, all of the mercy that he showed Cersei was for them. So it's weird that he complies with Robert in advance and then never thinks about his compliance. Robert nodded and closed his eyes. Ned watched his old friend sag softly into the pillows as the milk of the poppy washed the pain from his face. Very beautifully written lines here. It's very clear that he spent a lot of time here. Sleep took him. Heavy chains jangled softly as Grandmaster Pycelle came up to Ned. I will do all in my power, my lord, but the wound has mortified. It took them 2 days to get him back. By the time I saw him, it was too late. I can lessen his grace suffering, but only the gods can heal him now. So now we know exactly how long it took him back. 2 days. Renly should have ridden ahead. Ned should have had people watching for them. There should have been warning. He should have had warning, and then he should have put Cersei on a boat, because once the king arrives, once Robert arrives, Ned believes that the kids are in danger. I don't know if the kids would actually be in danger. Because Robert would have a lot of mixed feelings, but Ned believes that the kids are in danger. He should have had people posted to let him know when because when my kid's getting ready and the school bus is gonna leave, I'm checking on the school bus. Oh crap. Okay, we got to get him out there. Oh, up because we don't want him to miss the bus. It's the same with Cersei here. The minute Robert's back, the danger comes, or Ned believes the danger comes. He should have been watching. He should have put her on a boat. How long? Ned asked. By rights, he should be dead already. I've never seen a man cling to life so fiercely. Except for Jon Arryn. My brother was always strong, Lord Renly said. Not wise, perhaps, but strong. In the sweltering heat of the bedchamber, his brow was slick with sweat. He might have been Robert's ghost as he stood there, young and dark and handsome. He slew the boar. His entrails were sliding from his belly, yet somehow he slew the boar. His voice was full of wonder. Robert was never a man to leave the battleground so long as a foe remained standing, Ned told him. Outside the door, Sir Barristan Selmy still guarded the tower stairs. Maester Pycelle has given Robert the milk of the poppy, Ned told him. See that no one disturbs his rest without leave from me. It shall be as you command, my lord. Sir Barristan seemed old beyond his years. I have failed my sacred trust. Even the truest knight cannot protect a king against himself. Ned said. Robert loved to hunt boar. I have seen him take 1,000 of them. He would stand his ground without flinching, his legs braced, the great spear in his hand. And as often as he would curse the boar as it charged and wait until the last possible second until it almost killed him. But before he killed it with a single sure and savage thrust. No one could know that this one would be his death. I didn't read this well, but he would stand his ground without flinching, his legs braced, his great spear in his hand, and as often as not, he would curse the boar as it charged, and wait until the last possible second, until it was almost on him, before he killed it with a single sure and savage thrust. Long sentence. No one could have known this one would be his death. So we have a parallel here in that it's kind of like it's Bran Never Falls. This is the same as Bran Never Falls. And what's funny is the suspicion there. I think the Bran never falls, he must have been pushed thing is, and everyone's suspicious, like people are suspicious, is ridiculous. You know, like my little boy never fell from the jungle gym until he did. You know, like I'm not like, oh, somebody pushed him off the jungle gym. No, I saw him. He fell. You know, like they make mistake. But this is added here. This paragraph is added here because we're supposed to think, oh, we should be suspicious. You know, and so now we have this other plot coming in. You were so kind to say so, Lord Eddard. The king himself said as much. He blamed the wine. And we blame, that's the same with Viserys in the previous chapter. The white-haired knight gave him a weary nod. His grace was reeling in his saddle by the time he flushed the boar from his lair. Yet he commanded us to stand aside. I wonder, Sir Barristan asked very, very so quietly, who gave the king this wine? Ned had not heard the eunuch approach, but when he looked around, there he stood. He wore a black velvet robe that brushed the floor, and his face was freshly powdered. The wine was from the king's own skin, Sir Barristan said. Only one skin. Hunting is such thirsty work. I did not keep count. More than one, for certainly. His sky would fetch him a fresh skin whenever he required it. Such a dutiful boy, said Varys, to make certain his grace did not lack for refreshment. Dun, dun, dun. Of course, Robert is literally hunting for days. Okay, he is not drunk all this time, or he'd probably run out of wine. But they would have noticed, like, oh man, you're so drunk, dude. Ned had a bitter taste in his mouth. He recalled the two fair-haired boys Robert had sent chasing after a breastplate stretcher. The king had told everyone the tale that night at the feast, laughing until he shook. Which squire? The elder, said Sir Barristan, Lancel. I know that lad well, said Sir Varys, a stalwart boy, Sir Kevin Lannister's son, nephew to Lord Tywin and cousin to the Queen. I hope the dear sweet lad does not blame himself. Children are so vulnerable in the innocence of their youth. How well do I remember? And of course, it's like, oh, I hope he doesn't blame himself. Of course, he means the exact opposite. It is this is the ridiculous theory out there that Varys never lies. Of course, he doesn't care about hoping whether or not the lad blames himself. Like, the point is he wants Ned to blame him. And it turns out that the plot was true. Yes, this was a scheme. Certainly Varys had once been young. Ned doubted he'd ever been innocent. You mentioned children. Robert had a change of heart concerning Daenerys Targaryen. Whatever arrangements you made, I want unmade. At once. Alas, said Varys. At once may be too late. I fear those birds have flown, but I shall do what I can, my lord, with your leave. He bowed and vanished down the steps, his soft-soled slippers whispering against the stone as he made his descent. Cain and Tommen were helping Ned across the bridge when Lord Renly emerged from Maegor's holdfast. I do wonder if we're meant to think that when, if we're meant to think that Jorah's saving of Daenerys is if we're meant an order versus something that happened from the beginning. I mean, I think we all know that Varys never wanted Daenerys killed because they wanted the motivation to get the Khal Drogo west, but well, I guess we'll have to see how it all unfolds here. But yeah, it's I mean, it's not revealed until later when Jorah gives mentions it all. But I mean, in A Storm of Swords, it's revealed that the plan from the beginning was for Daenerys to not be killed. That it was going to be a fake out because Jorah was going to save her from the beginning. That was the plan. But I suppose the way this is revealed in a Game of Thrones, we have an order to kill her and then an order to save her. And if that would somehow be could a reader construe it as the order that Eddard put it in place, that the events in King's Landing put it in place. Anyway, I mean, in the end, it's not that. It's one thing from the beginning. Obviously, Varys, like we know that here that they're Targaryen restorationists here, and that they want Dany alive. But I mean, the Arya 3 already happened. We saw Illyrio and Varys talking. Lord Eddard, he called after Ned. A moment, if you'd be so kind. Ned stopped. As you wish. Renly walked to his side. Send your men away. They met in the center of the bridge, the dry moat beneath them. Moonlight silvered the cruel edges of the spikes that lined its bed. Ned gestured. Tommen and Cain bowed their heads and backed away respectfully. Lord Renly glanced warily at Sir Boros at the far end of the span, at Sir Preston in the doorway behind them. That letter, he leaned close. Was it the Regency? Has my brother named you protector? He did not wait for a reply. My lord, I have 30 men in my personal guard, and other friends beside, knights and lords. Give me an hour, and I can put 100 swords in your hands. And what should I do with 100 swords? Now, strike now while the castle sleeps. This is now Renly's plan here. A lot of people think that Ned should have taken Renly's offer. And, yeah, probably. Yeah. The reason Ned doesn't is that he thinks that 100 men is not good enough because he needs the whole city watch, and the city watch is thousands. And so, that he needs more men than 100. But Renly's strike in the middle of the night is a pretty good idea. Ned is thinking that there might be bloodshed. Now I know other people criticize Ned's. There are other criticisms of Renly's plan, saying, "Oh well, your Stannis is still going to have war. What's the difference?" But it's like with Ned in charge as Lord Protector, he would hand it to Stannis, and Renly would stop his coup. I mean, Renly has been trying to do something, all through a Game of Thrones. And keep in mind that his coup wasn't necessarily related to him being king. It seemed to be focused on making Marjorie queen to make his boyfriend Loras happy or something. It's not quite clear. I'm not sure that Renly's plans in a Game of Thrones make any damn sense. But the point being, Renly isn't obsessed with being king. He seems to be obsessed more with making Marjorie queen for some reason. But at this point, he hasn't put in his head that he's going to be king. he should take Renly's offer. And really, Ned should have done this strike prior to Renly and the king even arriving, because again, he thought that the kids were going to be in danger. He should have done this beforehand. So Renly is giving him another chance here, and he rejects it dumbly. This is Ned's biggest mistake. Strike now while the castle sleeps. Renly looked back. We must get Joffrey away from his mother and take him in hand. Protector or no, the man who holds the king holds the kingdom. We should seize Myrcella and Tommen as well. Once we have her children, Cersei will not dare to oppose us. The council will confirm you as Lord Protector and make Joffrey your ward. Now, some people say, oh, well, Ned can't do this plan because Stannis would be king and Stannis might execute Joffrey, and Joffrey's in trouble. Okay, once you get control of them, pop them on a boat and send them into exile. Like, it's that easy. Like, you don't have to hold them. You can give them up before Stannis arrives. You can pop them on a ship and send them off before Stannis arrives. And that's it. Like, that's done is done. I mean, granted, war with the Lannisters is inevitable, but like, I mean, they say Cersei would not dare oppose us. Yes, Tywin will. Tywin has proven that he will do whatever. He does not care if his family is a hostage. He will still make war. War with the Lannisters is inevitable. War is inevitable because Stannis is already gathering swords. But if he's talking about the truth of it all, like if he's talking about protecting the kids, the most important thing is which, by the way, he wants to protect the kids independently. Robert specifically made him promise to protect his kids. So those two things, like, he is honor bound and morality bound. His own moral code says he should protect the kids. And then he made a promise, he made a vow to Robert here to protect his kids. The best way to protect the kids is to arrest them now, as Renly says, pop them on a boat, send them into exile. Ned regarded him coldly. Robert is not dead yet. The gods may spare him. Now, this is a lie. Like, Ned doesn't think this. Renly doesn't think this. He's just kind of pushing away. He's coming up with an excuse. If not, I shall convene the council to hear his final words and consider the matter of succession. But I will not dishonor his last hours on earth by shedding blood in his halls and dragging frightened children from their beds. So Ned's plan here is he doesn't want to confirm anyone as ward. He wants to make Stannis king. But the convening of the council would have happened either way. He could have done a counteroffer and just said, okay, let's do the strike, but then we'll convene the council. Joffrey won't be my ward, but I'm going to send him off into exile. Like, he's hand. I guess he's thinking that if he's under, maybe he's thinking that if he's under if it's Renly's men, they won't do what he says. Maybe he's thinking that he can't command Renly's men to send them into exile, that Renly's men would say no, and then he wants his own men. Maybe that's it. I mean, I'll give that he thinks that Renly's men wouldn't pop Cersei and the kids on the ship or something. But he's Lord Protector. Once they confirm him as Lord Protector, then he can pop them on the ship. So he could use Renly's men to be confirmed Lord Protector, and then he can order and regent, and then he can pop them on the ship. Renly, and before Stannis arrives. No, yeah, it doesn't make sense. Ned's being dumb. Ned's just idiocy here. Lord Renly took a step back, taut as a bowstring. Every moment you delay gives Cersei another moment to prepare. Power outage. By the time Robert dies, it may be too late for both of us. Then we should pray that Robert does not die. Small chance of that, said Renly. Sometimes the gods are merciful. This is just a waste of time. The Lannisters are not. Lord Renly turned away and went back across the moat to the tower where his loved brother lay dying. By the time Ned returned to his chambers, he felt weary and heartsick. Yet there was no question he was of his going back to sleep. Not now. When you play the Game of Thrones, you win or you die, Cersei Lannister had told him in the Godswood. He found himself wondering if he had done the right thing by refusing Lord Renly's offer. He had. Bad offer. He had no taste for these intrigues, and there was no honor in threatening children. And yet, he's saving children. He'd be saving children. He'd be popping them on the boat. If Cersei elected to fight rather than flee, he might well have need of Renly's 100 swords and more besides. I want Littlefinger, he told Cain. If he's not in his chambers, take as many men as you need and search every wine sink and house in King's Landing until you find him. Bring him to me before break of day. Cain bowed and took his leave, and Ned turned to Tomard. The Wind Witch sails on the evening tide. Have you chosen the escort? 10 men with Pother in command. Pother is one of these guards that just kind of disappears, and we don't really know what happens to him. But then he's just kind of like listed as dead by people later, Bran later. So he's got men, he's got men here. He says he has at least 20 men, 20, and you will command. Ned said. Pother was a brave man, but headstrong. He wanted someone more solid and sensible to keep watch over his daughters. As you wish, my lord. I mean, his daughters should be gone by now. That's another big mistake. They should already be gone. As you wish, my lord, Tom said. Can't say. I'll be sad to see the back of this place. I miss the wife. You will pass near Dragonstone when you turn north. I need you to deliver a letter for me. Tom looked apprehensive. To Dragonstone, my lord. The island fortress of House Targaryen had a sinister repute. It's fun. I don't think many people really think of, even though it is a very sinister looking place, I don't think later people think of it as a place of sinister repute. But they haven't really establish the history of everything there. I mean, it's just a kind of a normal place, a normal part of the kingdom later on. Sinister repute. Tell Captain Kos to hoist my banner as soon as he comes in sight of the island. They may be wary of unexpected visitors. If he is reluctant, offer him whatever it takes. I will give you a letter to place into the hand of Lord Stannis Baratheon. No one else. Not his steward, nor his captain of guard, nor his lady wife, but only Lord Stannis himself. This is, of course, he has to do this because he doesn't trust Pycelle with ravens. As you command, my lord. When Tomard had left, Lord Eddard Stark sat staring at the flame of the candle that burned beside him on the table. For a moment his grief overwhelmed him. He wanted nothing so much as to seek out the godswood, to kneel before the heart tree and pray for the life of Robert Baratheon, who had been more than a brother to him. Men would whisper afterward that Lord Eddard Stark had betrayed his king's friendship and disinherited his sons. He could only hope that the gods would know better, and Robert would learn the truth of it in the land beyond the grave. Land beyond the grave is an interesting thing, because it's like, well, it's not what Northerners believe happens when you die, and it's not what Southerners believe happens when you die, but okay. I mean, they believe in heaven, but the land beyond the grave. Okay, heaven. Ned took out the king's last letter, a roll of crisp white parchment sealed with golden wax, a few words and a smear of blood. How small the difference between victory and defeat, between life and death. Yeah, and again, I mean, an irrelevant parchment. He drew out a fresh sheet of paper and dipped his quill in the ink pot. To his grace, Stannis of House Baratheon, he wrote. By the time you receive this letter, your brother Robert of King Our king, in these past 15 years, will be dead. He was savaged by a boar while hunting in the Kingswood. The letters seemed to writhe and twist. The letters seemed to writhe and twist on the paper as his hand trailed to a stop. Yeah, George is just really whole chapter is just utterly poetic. He really spent a lot of time on this one. I've said this 3 times or 4 times in this video. Lord Tywin and Sir Jaime were not men to suffer disgrace meekly. They would rather fight than flee. No doubt Stannis was wary after the murder of Jon Arryn, but it was imperative he sail for King's Landing at once with all his power before the Lannisters could march. Ned chose each word with care. When he was done, he signed the letter. Eddard Stark, Lord of Winterfell, Hand of the King, and Protector of the Realm, blotted the paper, folded it twice, and melted the sealing wax over the candle flame. His regency would be a short one, he reflected as the wax softened. The new king would choose his own hand. Ned would be free to go home. The thought of Winterfell brought a wan smile to his face. He wanted to hear Bran's laughter once more. Go hawking with Robb and watch Rickon play. He wanted to drift off to dreamless sleep in his own bed with his arms wrapped tight around his Lady Catelyn. Dreamless sleep because he dreams of Lyanna all the time. Of course, this is part of I mention this often. A thought about plan never comes to fruition. So here he's thought about what's going to happen to him. We now know he is not going to have a short regency. He's not going to have a regency at all. He is not going to go home. He's not going to see Robb again, or Rickon again, or Bran again, or Catelyn. Cain returned as he was pressing the direwolf seal into the soft white wax. Desmond was with him, and between them Littlefinger. Ned thanked his guards and sent them away. Lord Peter was clad in a blue velvet tunic and puffed sleeves, his silvery cape patterned with mockingbirds. I suppose congratulations are in order, he said as he seated himself. Ned scowled. The king lies wounded and near death. I know, Littlefinger said, but I also know that Robert has named you Protector of the Realm. Ned's eyes flicked with the king's letter on the table beside him, its seal unbroken. And how do you know that, my lord? Varys hinted as much, Littlefinger said, and now you just confirmed it. Ned's mouth twisted in anger. This means that Varys has kind of been listening to doors, got little birds in the walls, that kind of stuff. Ned's mouth twisted in anger. Damn Varys and his little birds. Catelyn spoke truly. The man has some black art. I do not trust him. Excellent, you're learning. Littlefinger leaned forward. Yet I wager you did not drag me here in the black of night to discuss the eunuch. No, Ned admitted. I know the secret that Jon Arryn... And here's the thing is, I suppose that Ned, for some reason, he knows not to trust Littlefinger. Like, he knows that there's something off about Littlefinger. He doesn't like Littlefinger. He could have been this honest with Renly and taken but I guess, Renly doesn't get him the gold cloaks. The thing is he's Hand. He can choose his own head of the gold cloaks and all sorts of things that he should have done. But here he thinks that the secret to the gold cloaks is Littlefinger. I know the secret Jon Arryn was murdered to protect. Robert will leave no true-born son behind him. Joffrey and Tommen are Jaime Lannister's bastards, born of the incestuous union with the Queen. Littlefinger lifted an eyebrow. Shocking. He said it in a tone that suggested he was not shocked at all. The girl is well, no doubt. So when the king dies, the throne by rights passes to Lord Stannis, the elder of Robert's 2 brothers. Lord Peter stroked his pointed beard as he considered the matter. So it would seem, unless... So here it's absolutely confirmed that Littlefinger knows too. Later in A Clash of Kings, we find out Pycelle knew, and we know Varys knows. So it's just everybody knows, but Renly apparently. But then that means Renly was scheming to put Marjorie, to make Marjorie queen without knowing about the incest. Which, I mean, it kind of only makes sense if you want to change the story around. I know in A Clash of Kings, it's very convincing. Again, I've gone over this. It's very convincing that Renly did not know about the incest. But He and in these dire situations, for example, had Renly known about the incest and he was in a panicked situation with Ned earlier, why wouldn't he say Ned to Ned, Ned, you know that like those kids are bastards, you know? Instead, he like is panicked and leaves while keeping the secret, which kind of only makes sense if Renly doesn't know. Lord Peter stroked his beard and considered the matter. So it would seem, unless, my lord, there's no seeming in this. Stannis is the heir. Nothing can change that. Stannis cannot take the throne without your help. If you're wise, you'll make certain Joffrey succeeds. Ned gave him a stony stare. Have you no shred of honor? Oh, a shred, surely, Littlefinger replied negligently. Hear me out. Stannis is no friend of yours, nor of mine. Even his brothers can scarcely stomach him. The man is iron, hard, and unyielding. We hear this a bit. We hear Donald Noy use the same metaphor, iron. Hard and unyielding. He'll give us a new hand, a new counsel for certainty. No doubt he'll thank you for handing him the crown, but he won't love you for it, and his assent will mean war. Stannis cannot rest easy on the throne until Cersei and her bastards are dead. Do you think this is why Ned should have popped them on a ship? Do you think Lord Tywin will sit idly while his daughter's head is measured for a spike? See, what's unusual here is he's right that Stannis will try to kill the bastards. Like, Ned should have popped them on the ship. He's going against his own motivation here, and the promise he made to Robert. Casterly Rock will rise, and not alone. Robert found it in him to pardon men who served King Aerys so long as they did him fealty. Stannis is less forgiving. So far, there's not. Ned wants to leave, so there's nothing here that's too motivating. He will not have forgotten the siege of Storm's End, and Lords Tyrell and Redwyne dare not. Every man who fought beneath the dragon banner arose for Balon Greyjoy will have good cause to fear. Seat Stannis on the Iron Throne, I promise you, the realm will bleed. But I don't think that this analysis is very good, actually. So he's saying that Lords Tyrell and Redwyne will not like Stannis and will reject Stannis. But the thing is we actually know that the Tyrells are in with Renly, so everything is fine. You know, like early information. Oh man, my throat. Early information about the bastardy and support of the North for Stannis would have probably had Renly not crown himself king. And if where Renly goes, the Tyrells go. But does Ned know about this? Does Ned know about the Tyrell Renly connection? You know. Every man who fought beneath the dragon banner arose with Balon will have good cause to fear. Seat Stannis on the throne, I promise you the realm will bleed. Or rose with Balon Greyjoy. Now look at the other side of the coin. Joffrey is but 12, and Robert gave you the regency, my lord. You are the hand of the king and protector of the realm. So the thing is, Balon Greyjoy won't rise because he still has Theon. Joffrey is but 12, and Robert gave you the regency, my lord. You are the hand of the king, protector of the realm. The power is yours, Lord Stark. All you need to do is reach out and take it. That is true. He can do anything he wants right now. Make your peace with the Lannisters. Release the imp. Wed Joffrey to Sansa. Wed your younger girl to Prince Tommen and your heir to Myrcella. It will be 4 years before Joffrey comes of age. By then, he will look to you as a second father, and if not, well, 4 years is a good long while, my lord, long enough to dispose of Lord Stannis. Then, should Joffrey prove troublesome, we can reveal his little secret and put Renly on the throne. We, Ned repeated. Of course, this is all just supposed to piss off Ned. It's not a real offer. It's not a serious offer. And had Ned accepted this, obviously, like Littlefinger would still betray him. Littlefinger gave a shrug. We need not share your burdens, I assure you. My price would be modest. Your price? Ned's voice was ice. Lord Baelish, what you suggest is treason, only if we lose. You forget, Ned told him. You forget Jon Arryn, you forget Jory Cassell, and you forget this. He drew the dagger and laid it on the table between them. A length of dragon bone of Valyrian steel, as sharp as the difference between right and wrong, between true and false, between life and death. They sent a man to cut my throat, Lord Baelish. So, you know, this is the other thing, is like, does he reject certain offers because he thinks there's going to be war? Because it sounds like he wants war. See, my big problem here with Ned, it's not just that Ned makes stupid mistakes. He is contradictory in his desires. Does he want war or not? Does he want to save the kids or not? Because his actions are inconsistent. And so that's, I would say, the biggest thing about Ned. You can argue that this decision was dumb and this decision was dumb and this, well, he didn't know this information and he didn't know this information and he was being tricked here and he was being tricked there. I think Ned, in the end, Ned's biggest failings is he's not consistent in his motivations. He doesn't even know what he wants and he's acting randomly. He's just acting randomly. Littlefinger sighed. I fear I did forget, my lord. Pray forgive me. For a moment, I did not remember that I was talking to a Stark. His mouth quirked. So it will be Stannis and war. It's not a choice. Stannis is the heir. Far be it for me to dispute the Lord Protector. What would you have of me, then? Not my wisdom, for certainty. I shall do my best to forget your wisdom, Ned said with distaste. I called you here to ask for your help to ask you for the help you promised Catelyn. This is a perilous hour for all of us. Robert has named me protector, true enough, but in the eyes of the world, Joffrey is still his son and heir. The queen has a dozen knights and 100 men in arms who will do whatever she commands, enough to overwhelm what remains of my household guard. Of course, should have had Renly. And for all I know, her brother Jaime may be riding for King's Landing, or even as we speak, with the Lannister host at his back. And you without an army. Littlefinger toyed with the dagger on his table, turning it slowly with his fingers. There's a small love lost between Lord Renly and the Lannisters, Bronzion Royce, Sir Balon Swan, Sir Loras, Lady Tanda, the Red Wine twins. Each of them has a retinue of knights and sworn swords here at court. Renly has 30 men with a personal guard, the rest even fewer. It is not enough. Even if I could be certain that all of them will choose to give me their alliance, I must have the gold cloaks, the city watch with 2,000 strong, sworn to defend the city, the castle, the city, and the king's peace. Ah, but when the queen proclaims one king and the hand the other, whose peace do they protect? Lord Peter flicked at the dagger with his finger, setting it spinning in place. Round and round it went, wobbling as it turned. When it at last slowed to a stop, the blade pointed at Littlefinger. Why, there's your answer, he said, smiling. They follow the man who pays them. He leaned back and took Ned full in the face. Looked Ned full in the face, his gray-green eyes bright with mockery. You wear your honor like a suit of armor, Stark. You think it keeps you safe, but all it does is weigh you down and make it hard for you to move. Look at you now. You know why you summoned me here. You know what you want to ask me to do. You know it has to be done, but it's not honorable, as the words stick in your throat. Beautiful, beautifully written. Ned's neck was rigid with tension. For a moment he was so angry he did not trust himself to speak. Littlefinger laughed. I had to make you say it, but that would be cruel. So have no fear, my good lord. For the sake of my love, the love I bear Catelyn, I will go to Janis Slynt this very hour and make certain that the city watch is yours. 6,000 gold pieces should do it. A third for the commander, a third for the officers, a third for the men. We'll be able to buy them for half as much, but I prefer not to take chances. Smiling, he plucked the dagger and offered it to Ned. Hilt first. So this chapter, um, perhaps the most, I would say that this is perhaps the most beautifully written chapter so far in a Game of Thrones. George really took his time with it. I mean, perhaps the hands tourney, but he really spent some great time on all of the 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 imagery and the especially Littlefinger's speech at the end and all of the poetry around Robert's death and such. Um, but in the end, if we're talking about analysis of like Ned's choices, they do not make sense, and he is a fucking idiot. Like, what does he want? What does he want? Does he want to protect the kids or not? Because he's not acting like it. So yeah, great, beautifully written chapter, very exciting, well paced. All the characters, all the great characters appear. Varys and Littlefinger are fantastic. The emotional send off to Robert, one of the greatest chapters, one of the great chapters of a Game of Thrones. This climax, and so, but as I said, man, Ned is an idiot. Ned is an idiot. I can't defend him. He's an idiot. Anyway, that's Eddard XIII. I will see you next time. Thanks.